Welcome to the JP8 report. This is James Pierce with the JP8 report, episode 280. Trump suing BBC for $10 billion. Alrighty, welcome everyone to the JP8 report. I almost was late by like 2 minutes. I was looking at something on the internet and got lost. And then I looked at my watch. So, oops. It was like 11:57. Okay, but I'm here. All right, thank you everyone for tuning in today, and welcome to the JPA report. As we get started, don't forget that if you are first-time visitor of the JPA report, click that follow button, and then go right next to it and click that thumbs up button, which is the like. And if you can, share it. I appreciate it. All right, and thank you for the few people that went out there and said congratulations to my daughter for crossing graduation stage down. She was in California the last few days. She comes back tonight. I may be very tired for the podcast tomorrow afternoon because we have to be in Austin at noon. So that means we probably won't get home till almost 2 o'clock in the morning. So let's see how I feel. All right. So a lot of stuff has been happening on the news. See, Fox News alert. It's over. Man, okay. They're looking for that assassin that's running around in Brown University area. We'll talk about that in a few minutes and stuff. So for America 250, this is one of those Donsa days. I think they realized during the American Revolution that they're going to make December 16th a special day in 1775 because nothing is recorded as happening, only one thing. And so we'll say it's the day of non-scheduled activity, DONSA. Okay, it's an Army term. So if you're watching and you've heard that term in the Army before, let me know. So today's a DONSA day. What? Okay. Didn't take all my edits. Okay, that's all right. We can go forward and draw fire. Okay, so the only thing that happened on December 16th, 1775 was the author Jane Austen was born in Steventon Rectory, Hampshire, England. All right, she wrote the book Pride and Prejudice, and she only lived to be 41 years old. She was born this day in 1775 and died the 18th of July, 1817. But I called my daughter up in California last night and said, Rachel, why didn't you tell me? And it's one of those setup questions. What do you mean? Why were you holding back on me? And then she said, what? I said, why didn't you tell me Jane Austen was born 16 December 1775? I said, oh, I thought you knew. I'm like, why would I know something like that? Right? But I will tell you, the one thing that did happen on the 16th of December 1773, which was 2 years prior, was the Boston Tea Party, in which a group of patriots went into Boston Harbor and dumped 300 chests of tea into Boston Harbor to protest taxes in the colonies. It made the British mad when they did that, but I don't care because I live in the United States of America. But so this day in 1773 was the Boston Tea Party, and if you advance 2 years later, Jane Austen was born. All right, don't put two and two together on that one because they don't mix. All right, so that's your America 250 and America 252. And then let's see, Dalmatian. All right. Okay, go up one. All right, there we go. And my Stream Deck started working after the podcast yesterday, so go figure on that one. All right, so Texas Burger Group. They make homemade smash burgers in dogs right here in Copper's Cove. All their ingredients are homemade, including their buns, and they're open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 2, and 7:30 to 5:30 to 7, unless they sell out. They have a whole stream of burgers you can see on this menu screen we have here. Single burger, $6.50. Try that up in New York if you're watching from there. And all the burgers are the same price, unless you get a single, double, or triple. You see what they are. And I like the armadillo. Matter of fact, I am planning to go get one right after this. There we go. Stop. There we go. All right. I'm advancing the slide, getting ready for the next one. All right. So before I get to that other stuff, you know how I've been talking about how Republicans are going after each other. My butthurt politician speech I like to give a lot because it's actually true. But never to despair, the Democrats do the same thing. So here in Texas, you have our newspaper. Okay, it's the. Let me see if I can show you what the name of it is. This is our Democrat paper here in the Bell County area. It's the Killeen Daily Herald. All right, it didn't show up too well on the screen. That's all right. So there's two articles about Democrats going after each other. So one of the more popular Democrats in Tarrant County, Mark Veazey, last Monday, before the last day of filing ended, dropped his bid for Congress and filed to run in the as a Tarrant County judge, right? And he was going to run in what's her name? He was going to run against Alyssa Simmons for the Democrat nomination to run for Tarrant County judge. Lo and behold, yesterday afternoon, which was the deadline for dropping out of the race, he dropped his bid for Tarrant County judge also. So now Mark Veazey, all right, is now not running for any office. And I'm going to read a little bit of this article. U.S. Representative Mark Veazey, Democrat, Fort Worth, announced Monday he is withdrawing from the race for Tarrant County judge, less than a week after his 11th hour decision to run for the county executive post. Veazey, who also represented North Texas' 33rd Congressional District since 2013, filed to challenge Judge Tim O'Hara on Tuesday last week. The deadline for candidates to get into the 2026 ballot, it was Monday. All right, his decision. That means some of these people don't know what they're writing in the first place. It came from the Texas Tribune. The new congressional map approved by Republicans in the legislature split up Veazey's political base in Fort Worth, shifting his district entirely into the neighboring Dallas County. Most of it, there's a small portion still in Tarrant County. If they would look at the maps before they write the articles, they would know. But on Monday, he announced that he wanted to keep his focus next year, his final year in Congress, on his dismantled congressional district rather than campaign for local office. Right now, my responsibility is to stay in Congress and continue the fight where the stakes are the highest, holding Donald Trump accountable, pushing back against MAGA extremism, and defending the democratic values of our community it depends on. That is where I believe I can do the most good, and that it is the work I intend to continue until the end of my term. Huh. So, and then over here on this other side, so Colin Aldred decided he didn't want to run for the U.S. Senate, so he filed the run for the U.S. Congress again, right? So throwing the Senate race between Taliaferro and Crockett, right? But now he's running against Congresswoman Julie Johnson, and they're already throwing barbs at each other. It says Congresswoman Julie Johnson and former Congressman Colin Aldred aren't holding back as they compete for the Democratic nomination in the 33rd District, kicking off their campaigns with a flurry of rhetorical haymakers. Johnson says Aldred blindsided everyone by switching races at the last minute, and that Texas women can relate by having a man try to take back a position after failing to advance in his own career. Aldred says he has shown that he can deliver for the Dallas area and that Johnson is not entitled to represent a newly drawn majority-minority district that needs to be effective if advocate who truly understands the community. The two have been sparring since filing day drama last week scrambled the party's primary landscape and thrust them into a head-to-head contest heavy with overtones of gender and race. And then I'm going to read one more paragraph. This is going to be a primary election that lots of people will be watching for the show as well as the result, said Cal Jillison, professor of political science at SMU, Southern Methodist University. Wow. Okay, so the Democrats can go after each other also. Just so you know, if you're watching from New York or Maine or Nevada, whatever, right? Makes life fun sometimes, right? And then I just heard on the news just a minute ago that I like to watch Gutfeld on Saturday, on Monday through Friday evening at 9 p.m. And every now and then, like maybe once every 2 weeks, Michelle Taliaferro, she likes to come on there, and she is funny. She was on there last night, right? I got to see a little bit of it, not a whole bunch, but just came out on the New York Post that the National Republican Senatorial Committee is trying to recruit her heavily to see if they can get her to run for the U.S. Senate in Minnesota. So if she goes that route, Fox will lose another person to national politics, but she is funny, and she used to write. I think she wrote for ESPN. I think, but so that I just saw that. So Michelle Taliaferro may be leaving Fox to run for the U.S. Senate. We'll probably find out in the next few weeks. All right. So, oh man. Let me get a cough drop. I forgot to get me something to drink. Matter of fact, hold on just a second. Did I put it up here? I sure did. So, if y'all know me, I have to cat-proof everything in this house or I lose it. And if I leave that glass in the wrong area, I'll be picking up broken glass. All right? I have a filing cabinet that I keep medicine and stuff like that on. Now these cats have learned to jump on top of the filing cabinet. This is crazy. So I create an obstacle a hidden obstacle along the top of the filing cabinet last night before I went to bed. And this morning, my wife said, "What was his cat? Oh yeah, George. George got hit by your cell phone holder." I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Your cell phone holder?" I was like, "No, that thing's way over here." And then she said, "No, the cup holder." So what this stupid cat did, she jumped up and grabbed the obstacle that I put in there, but I put the cup holder inside a box, a side of a box, right? And this stupid cat grabbed her paw and hit the cup holder and pulled the cup holder down on top of her. I mean, it only weighs a few ounces. It didn't hurt her. But she said, Ann said that it scared her so bad, this cat just sprinted away. Hey, she shouldn't have touched my obstacle. Leave my stuff alone. All right, so let's get back to the, oh man, I don't know how did that come with conservative talk, right? But, okay. So the first thing, I told you about Michelle. Okay, so next is Trump sues the BBC for $10 billion. I got that out of the New York Post. It says President Trump lodged an eye-watering $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC on Monday, accusing the British broadcaster of defaming him through a deceptive edit on his January 6, 2021 speech at the White House ellipse. The lawsuit took aim at a 2024 documentary by the BBC, which spliced different sections of Trump's comments before his supporters ransacked the Capitol. He didn't ransack the Capitol. I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally. Trump grumbled to reporters earlier in the day, Monday. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say. And he's absolutely correct about that. I heard that whole speech, and I saw what the BBC put out. Two different products. Trump's legal team filed a 33-page lawsuit in a federal court in Miami, blasting the BBC's documentary entitled Trump, A Second Chance, as a brazen attempt to interfere in and influence the 2024 election. The colossal lawsuit is seeking $5 billion for defamation, specifically, and another $5 billion for violating Florida's deceptive and unfair trade practices law. Last month, the BBC issued a formal apology, but insisted it did not defame Trump. They should have just included it. It's going to save them a lot of money. The BBC's director general and news CEO stepped down, and then BBC chair Samir Shah described the edit as an error of judgment, which is going to cost him about $10 billion. I tell you what, at this point, President Trump isn't going to have to raise any money for his presidential library. It's being self-funded by these stupid individuals that keep defaming the president. Man. You know, they've ought to lay a cornerstone at his presidential library. This building was constructed by the negative wisdom inside by individuals with Trump derangement syndrome, because that's exactly who built the thing for them. Is these people can't say the right things, and they're putting their foot in their mouth. Foot and mouth disease. That's what it is. But we will go from there. Start on the next item. $10 billion. Well, you know, really, truly, that, so, and honestly, when you have a defamation lawsuit, it usually won't go for the full $10 billion. They're going to settle. They'll probably settle for something like 1 billion or 500 million or something to cause them to save a little bit of face, and then help the president build his presidential library a little bit better. Or, we can gold plate the White House for a future renovation. I'm being facetious on that one, sarcastic, not facetious. So to continue on, now everybody knows what happened Sunday in Los Angeles or Brentwood with Rob Reiner, right? And people. So I'll just go ahead and show you it. Okay, this is what the president put out yesterday about Rob Reiner, and he did say at the very end that may they rest in peace, right? But he's right. Mr. Reiner had Trump derangement syndrome. Everything that came out about Trump and him was vile and vindictive. It was. All right. The reason I put that up there is the problem is that hold on, I'm trying to advance a slide. There we go. The problem is that President Trump, he's from New York City. He can dish out as well as take it. Ever since 2015, okay, when he came down that golden escalator, he has absorbed every single attack that's been thrown at him. He's been shot. There's been another attempt on his life. They impeached him twice for stuff he didn't do. They've taken him to court, state court, 2 state courts and 2 federal courts, charged him with felonies, indicted him like 96 times, which could have put him in jail for like over 500 years or something like that. He's been exonerated on most of everything, and the rest of it's coming. But they keep at him every time you turn on the news, other than Fox, or sometimes on Fox, and then on Newsmax and stuff. All they do is blast President Trump over and over and over again, right? And it never ends. So when the president fights back, he's wrong. I don't play that game. Leave the president alone. He didn't do nothing, man. He's dating. I put crazy stuff on Facebook sometimes, right? I don't use X a whole lot, but I do. But we're not perfect. Most of it, we're all fallen. That's the way it is. But the way they disrespect President Trump on everything. We're about to have midterm elections. And, the fact is that we're having such a hard time now is because we're not getting anything through the House of Representatives and the Senate because the people just hate Trump. They won't do anything to help him. He can't get... If you have a Democrat senator in your state and you have federal judges or U.S. attorneys that need to be approved by the Senate, it ain't happening. They will do everything in their power to stop Trump. We're stopping Trump. That's all they do. And the times that the president fights back, we have conservatives that are blaspheming him because of what he wants to say. He's not a king. He's already said that. He's a human being. He has emotions. And he's not perfect. And he's just stating the obvious fact about how someone treated him. And yes, that man died. I didn't think he was a good actor in the first place. But he didn't deserve to die like that. And the president didn't say he deserved to die like that. He just stated the guy had ill meaning toward the president every single time he talked about him. So give the president a break and let things go. And you know what? We have more important fish to fry in our Senate, like doing away with the cloture vote and doing away with the blue slip junk. If we want to change our country and give the president an attempt, let's get the judges he wants and the U.S. attorneys he wants in place, and then do away with not do away with the filibuster. Like I heard Andy Briggs on TV this morning on the Vince podcast. He was talking about cloture and filibuster. There's no one saying to do away with the filibuster. If you want to do a filibuster, get your butt up there on the Senate floor and start talking until you can't talk no more. And if you can manage to stay up there and convince people, because most of the people when they do a filibuster, I dare them to turn the cameras around to show who's in the audience, because you'd be lucky to see 5 senators in there listening, because they all left and gone home. When the Senate is in session, everybody should be there. And that's another thing. I've been on there for 27 minutes and I'm on my second line. Really? Come on, James. But they got to give the president the benefit of the doubt. And let's get some of this legislation moving, unless you Republicans out there want to allow the Democrats to win in the midterms so you can argue and cry, moan and groan. Yeah, that's probably what they want to do, because the more you can complain, the more money you can make. I'll tell you right now, with this podcast, I ain't made a dime on this podcast in 4 years. I wish I could. I wish I was like some of these other conservative podcasters and some of these liberals that make hundreds of thousands of dollars per episode, and I make maybe 15 cents, if I'm lucky, maybe 10 cents. I survive on my Army retirement and my VA disability, while all these other people get to do what they want. Give the president a chance, and let's make him successful. You make him successful, he'll make you successful. All right? Let's go on to the next one before I really lose it. Bondi Beach. Okay, that's the Australia stuff. Okay, I'm going to read from an opinion piece from the New York Post. One thing I did, and it was from Lorenzo Vidino. One thing I did here just a few minutes ago, they did, when they searched the vehicle that son and father were in, they found homemade bombs in there, and they found an ISIS flag in there also. All right? The horrifying attack in Sydney highlights 2 interrelated dynamics that have plagued counterterrorism efforts in all Western countries for decades. The first is that Naveed Akim, one of the 2 who carried out the attack with his father Sajid, had been investigated by Australian authorities for connections to ISIS back in 2019, but had not been arrested. Data we have collected at George Washington University's Program for Extremism shows that this is a common dynamic, as more than half of perpetrators of terrorist attacks in the West since 9/11 had been on a watch list. Did Australian authorities make a mistake and overlook a terrorist? Details will emerge in the coming months, and it is not unlikely that mistakes were made. But it cannot be overlooked that the actions of Western intelligence and law enforcement agencies are limited by a number of factors. Constitutional rights. The first are legal issues. Authorities might know that a certain individual holds radical beliefs, monitor when they manifest them, and even when they interact with others who engage in violent actions. But unless the line of criminal behavior is crossed, that there is not much that can be done. In substance, in Western democracies, individuals have a sacrosanct and constitutionally protected right to be radicals, and that most authorities can do is monitor them. That's right, especially in the United States. Even assuming they receive the court orders often needed for surveillance, law enforcement, and intelligence officials run into the second problem: scarce resources. Round-the-clock, intensive surveillance of a suspect requires about 25 officials on any given day, numbers that no Western country can afford. Also, considering the growing number of radicals, authorities therefore divide the suspect into tiers according to an assessment on the propensity for committing violence and allocate sources accordingly. Inevitably, sometimes they get it wrong. The second, hold on. Oh, yeah, I'm getting to that. Let's see, where am I at? Oh, yeah. Capone approach. Thanks to the large dissemination of machinery, they traffic ideas that, taken to their logical conclusion, justify violence and inspire angry young men to carry it out. In the British debate, it's used to be said that these non-immediately violent Islamists provide the mood music to which suicide bombers dance. Groups such as those inspired Akram to also operate in America, thriving thanks to the abuse of First Amendment protections and our extreme tolerance. Democracies find it inherently difficult to challenge groups that seek to subvert them while operating within the law, but America, like all Western countries, need to reorganize the threat that Islamism, in all it manifests, poses to it. And several steps in that direction have been taken over recent months. Designating the Muslim Brotherhood as one of them, but U.S. authorities already have at their disposal many other instruments that can allow them to severely undercut Islamist actors. Here in Texas, our governor designated CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood as foreign terrorist organizations, and so did Florida. All right, so to go with that, also, Australians are very upset with what happened. And then, according to the New York Post, an enraged Australian man who stomped on the head of one of the accused men killing 15 people in the Bondi Beach massacre says he does not regret attacking the suspect after witnessing the Sunday's carnage. Jacob Barnfeld, who went viral after stomping on one of the suspect's heads during his arrest, said that the kick was something every Australian wanted to do. I think Americans would want to do that too. People were just there stomping on his head. I got a pretty good shot in his head as well, but I feel like it was pretty well deserved considering the circumstances. I had so much anger built up just to kick them because you've just seen all the dead bodies. You've just seen families screaming and crying, he said. There were children on the floor screaming and crying. It was a bit of a dog shot, but I don't regret it at all. He deserved every bit. And he said he was one of the bystanders that helped jump the suspects, the son who was on the bridge, and his father, Sajid, in the aftermath of the deadly shooting that also injured 40 as hundreds of Jews celebrated Hanukkah on the famous Australian beach. Barnfield could be seen on video shirtless as he ran over to the concrete bridge and stomped on one of the suspects' head as he shouted F and then King bash him. It remains unclear whether the gunman, Barnfield, or others had stomped on. Barnfield said he wasn't thinking about his own safety in the moment. You know, that brings up when on November 5th, 2009, when the terrorist doctor killed a bunch of people here on Fort Hood. We just wished they would have dropped the shooter off right outside of our orderly room, because we lost a soldier in that shooting, and that's all we wanted to do. We wanted him to roll his wheelchair up in front of our orderly room with him in it and let us do the rest of the work and save probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on the trial that pursued afterward. All the security enhancements of the court, his lawyer fees, and everything else like that. And now we got to spend all that money to execute him one day. Hopefully I'm alive when they finally execute him. Unless, if you didn't know, the propensity for the U.S. military to execute a death row inmate is very low. I believe it's been decades since an American military person has been executed for a capital crime. So the chances are, what they do is they take his conviction and then convert it to life in prison. Hopefully this doesn't happen. All right. So next is Brown University. They had to release the person of interest because they had the wrong person of interest. And they had to go back to the very beginning and start over their investigation to find the person that they released all kinds of video on. And they can't figure out what happened. The police chief yesterday said, we have a video we're going to post. Well, they didn't post it until well after the press conference. It's like Mayberry RFD all over again with the police people there. This is crazy. You know, from everything I saw yesterday, and I'm not trying to draw up no conspiracy, but with the video they were showing, with the guy looked like he cased everything out, and it was a white male. From the video, he looked like he was overweight, all right? From the way he walked and how his stomach, because, hey man, I put weight on after I retired from the Army. But you can tell he had some pounds on, right? He was Caucasian. They said he was about 5'8", but they can't find him. Trump announces primetime address. Whoa, breaking news. Trump announces primetime address to the nation Wednesday night. I have no idea what that's about, but that just crossed the wires. It's on my phone. Well, it was on my watch too. Okay, so tonight the president is going to address the nation for something. I don't know. So the next point I want to make is, if he was just a mass shooter, why didn't he just go down the road and find a bigger target? One that wasn't enclosed inside of a classroom. All right? Was it a targeted assassination? One of the two people that were killed in the shooting was, what's her name? Ella Cook from Alabama, right? Well, she was the vice president of the college Republicans and very outspoken at the college. And we know how those colleges are so liberal these days, right? So was she an actual target or was she not? I wish they would come out with more information to let us know what's going on. Enough to which it won't compromise their investigation, right? We'll see. We'll see. We'll go on from there. Cops release very grainy video of suspected Brown shooter as they search for new leads. Well, and then I have this one about Miss Cook. I'll read real quick before I go on to the next subject. An Alabama woman was among the two students killed in the shooting at Brown University Saturday, according to her church. Cathedral Church of the Advent of Birmingham said Ella Cook, one of the parishioners, was killed when a gunman fired shots inside of a classroom on the campus of the University of Providence, Rhode Island. Some of you haven't heard, a lot of you have heard, about the tragedy yesterday at Brown University, the shooting of a number of people. Reverend Craig Smalley said in a video the church posted of its Sunday service. Tragically, one of our parishioners, Ella Cook, was one of those killed yesterday. Smalley said that Cook encouraged and lifted up those around her. And those of you who knew her, those of you who know her, she was incredible, grounded, faithful, bright light. At Brown University, she was an incredible light in a particular place as well. Cook was a sophomore at the university. She was also vice president of Brown University College Republicans. The College Republicans of America posted that it was devastated by Cook's death. She was known for a bold, brave, and kind heart as she served her chapter and her fellow classmates. The group said in a statement, "Our prayers are with her family, our Brown College Republicans, and the entirety of the campus as they heal from this tragedy." So that says a lot too. That needs to be answered about this shooting. Okay? We'll go on to other stuff. Let's see. Hold on just a second. I hear music for some reason. I don't know. Okay. So we'll go with this one. Alrighty. DOJ accuses Democrat campaign arm of obstruction in lawsuit over California redistricting, which is Prop 50. The Department of Justice accused the Democrat campaign arm of Congress, it's called the DCCC, of withholding key redistricting documents, an allegation that surfaced just before a 3-day hearing kicked off Monday in federal court over California's Proposition 50. The DOJ argued in court papers that the DCCC and consultant Paul Mitchell, all who drew California's new map proposal, attempted to hinder the discovery process, including by dumping several gigabytes of files on the government less than 2 days before the hearing was set to begin. The documents that they did provide, according to DOJ lawyers, included evidence that Mitchell prioritized racial considerations when he drew Prop 50 map, such as a slide deck he made promoting how the map would increase voting opportunities for Latino residents. I thought the U.S. Supreme Court said you couldn't do that no more. Like 2 years ago. DOJ attorneys said the DCCC misled the court by aiming it lacked control over Mitchell's records, despite having a contractual right to his materials. The DCCC therefore had an obligation to produce responsive records as part of the discovery process. The lawyer said. Meanwhile, Mitchell withheld documents, raised baseless privilege objections dozens of times in his disposition, and belatedly produced only a fraction of his tens of thousands of files to the court, the DOJ lawyer said. The court clash is part of a lawsuit that DOJ joined against Governor Gavin Newsom and the DCCC. The lawsuit alleged that Proposition 50, which would allow the state to draw a more Democrat-friendly map in time for the 2026 midterms, involved unconstitutional racial gerrymandering, which is absolutely true. The litigation is one of many redistricting disputes that have cropped up across the country of next year's election. Prop 50, which passed as a ballot measure in November, was a direct response to a mid-decade redistricting effort in Texas and designed to cancel out 5 Republican gains there. The Supreme Court recently upheld the map in emergency order. So, it's called obstruction. That's what it is. And if they purposely made the voting district a majority-minority district, they're violating the rule of the Supreme Court, which means they're probably going to lose in those boundaries to go back to the original boundaries. It should be like that, right? Gavin Newsom will probably try to figure out how he can overcome that one. The next one is this one. In FBI to give Congress bombshell memos warning Biden DOJ didn't have probable cause to raid the Trump home in Maralago, right? And those memos are going to be delivered today, right? So this deals with the classified documents case down in Miami or Maralago. So this came from Just the News with John Solomon. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel are preparing to turn over to Congress bombshell emails showing the FBI warned the Biden Justice Department did not have probable cause to raid President Donald Trump's home at Maralago. But prosecutors proceeded anyways, Just the News has learned. The emails are to be turned over as early as Tuesday to the Senate and House Judiciary Committees ahead of a planned deposition Wednesday from ex-Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, who inherited the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case just months after the August 2022 raid of Trump's home that rocked the political world ahead of the 2024 election. The memos show FBI field office does not believe they established probable cause prior to raiding Trump's Florida home, according to one source with direct knowledge of the memos about to be turned over to Congress. It has been long rumored that some FBI agents disagreed with the decision to raid Trump's home to look for classified documents at the request of National Archives, but the soon-to-be-released emails will chronicle the specific concerns that DOJ under President Joe Biden had not met the standard for a search warrant, but it proceeded anyway. Seems like a bad rerun on like FBI or something, right? The raid became, I'm not talking about the real FBI, I'm talking about the TV show FBI. The raid became a flashpoint in a battle between Biden and Trump ahead of the 2024 election, leading to 2 federal indictments against Trump, where he ultimately dismissed in what Republicans argue were politically weaponized attacks by the Democrat-run DOJ designed to influence the 24 elections. Does anyone have anything they want to add to that? What do you do in that instance? I mean, you have the top law enforcement officials in the land executing a search with under the falsities of a probable cause. They shouldn't have done it in the first place, right? That's the end of the article. Wow. Oh, ahead of Smith's appearance, House Democrats are trying to force the release of classified version of his final report on his investigation. It's classified. You don't have the right to unclassify it. Only at that point will the FBI or the DOJ, probably the DOJ, and the president can only declassify it. All right. This is business news right here. This came from the Daily Caller, all right? And Ireland Owens is the reporter. The SBA on Monday launched a new strike force aiming to axe Biden-era regulations that drove up the cost for small American businesses. The new deregulation strike force, led by SBA's Office of Advocacy, will aim to identify and eliminate any Biden-era regulations that impose unnecessary costs to American small business owners, according to a news release. SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler said in a statement that her agency's task force will help to cut senseless red tape for U.S. small businesses and consumers. Bidenomics brought historic new highs in inflation and crushed working families and small businesses, driven in part by massive bureaucracy that helped trillions in new federal regulations onto the back of hard-working Americans. Loeffler said, through our deregulation strike force, SBA is leveraging its unique authority to deregulate across the federal government and cut senseless red tape that drove up costs for small businesses and consumers, especially in industries hardest hit by Biden inflation. That is extremely true because of the fact that I did own a small business and we lost our small business because the rate of inflation and all these stupid regulations that were in effect, prices kept going up and up and up. Labor kept going up and up and up. And I had to raise my prices. There's only so much you can raise your prices before you may have supply, but demand is going to drop. And that means the pricing of what you want is going to drop, right? But I couldn't drop the prices because I had to buy the supplies, which kept the prices I had to charge customers higher than they could actually afford. But unless we had some type of relief, there's no way I went out of my way to make sure I sold American-made products. But this stuff was so expensive because everybody else wanted they wanted Vietnamese-made cabinets or Japanese-made cabinets or whatever, right? Particle board cabinets, stuff that falls apart. But you couldn't keep up because the Biden administration, the rate of inflation kept going up higher and higher and higher, and we just couldn't keep up with it. I am so glad that Kelly Loeffler is going to bat for small businesses and try to destroy. Like I was saying the other day, you may be paying for something that's extremely high, and the price is never going to drop again, right? To a point, because the materials and stuff are going to stay about the same price. But all the different little fees you pay in there, if those are wiped away, you could take that amount away from the products you're buying that are being produced, and it's going to help. And it shouldn't deflate the economy. It'll equalize it, right? So I'm glad she's doing this, and I wish her all the success in doing it. Maybe she can save billions of dollars. I think they said in there they should be able to save upwards, did I see like $90 billion or something like that? Hold on, because I read this earlier. I read it somewhere. I saw the number. I thought I saw $90 billion, I think. But I could be wrong, but I can't find it in there. And I printed the whole article. I read it too. All right. So we'll talk about these. We'll talk about these guys. They're worth it. We got the U.S. Army named the 2 soldiers that were killed from the Iowa National Guard that were in Syria. They were both NCOs. They'd be called non-commissioned officers. So the 2 Iowa National Guard members killed alongside of a civilian interpreter by a lone ISIS gunman in Syria were identified as a pair of dedicated sergeants. I call them non-commissioned officers. Military officials said Monday. Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tovar, 25 of Des Moines, and Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard, 29 of Marshalltown, were remembered for their courage and their sacrifice by the Chief of the National Guard Bureau, General Stephen Nordos, in a statement Monday. Our hearts are with the families, loved ones, and the Iowa National Guard in this time of profound sorrow. Remember, it's been a while since I've been in uniform, but I still remember it, right? And anytime you step overseas in a foreign environment, your life is at risk. And I know they wouldn't do it any different than what they were doing. They were doing their job. The guy's dead that killed them. But just remember their family members, and hopefully they're well taken care of. The family members are, okay? But that was Sergeant Torres Tovar and Sergeant Howard, all right? Both from Iowa. One was 25 and the other was 29 years old. All right? Remember their families, please. And then, I ain't getting everything today, guys. So last week I told you about how the U.S. and Mexico are going at it about water rights. Eddie Hovland reported that Mexico has agreed to release water to the Rio Grande Valley to fulfill as part of the 1944 treaty after years of failing to do so. The announcement made by Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, under the treaty, Mexico is required to deliver 1.75 million acre-feet of water into the Rio Grande Valley. In return, the U.S. delivers 1.5 million acre-feet of water to Mexico from the Colorado River. Mexico, though, has failed to deliver its full water allocation multiple times since 1994. Under pressure from the Trump administration, Mexico has needed to comply with the treaty and to send water to repay the previous cycle's deficit. Release of water from Mexico into the RGV is set to begin next week, which is awesome because we need it. So if you realize what I was reading, so the Colorado River is the boundary between not the Colorado River in Texas, but the Colorado River in the western part of the United States. It's the boundary between California and Arizona. Okay, so the treaty from 1944, right? So they need water really, really bad in that part of Mexico, in northwest Mexico. And we need water really, really bad in the RGV, the Rio Grande Valley, the Citrus Valley, which Key's point in thinking, why do we call it the Citrus Valley? Because that's where we grow melons, cantaloupe, oranges, anything that we need for the wintertime is produced in the RGV. But it gets pretty arid down there. So the treaty we gave water to them in the western part of Mexico, and they gave us water in the southern part of Texas. And that's going to set to begin again. And then the other part I wanted to read. I should have read this earlier. I was talking about how Democrats are going at each other and stuff. So in Harris County, they got a new mayor. It's John Whitmer. John Whitmer used to be a state senator in the state of Texas until Sylvester Turner resigned his mayor's seat and ran for Congress, and then he died. But John Whitmer resigned his senator's seat in Texas to run for mayor of Houston. He's more of a moderate Democrat, right? So this is another one from the Texas scorecard. And Michael Wilson is reporting it. Harris County Democrats deny future endorsements for Houston Mayor John Whitmer, accusing John Whitmer of failing to challenge Republicans with sufficient fervor. The Harris County Democrats passed a resolution making the incumbent mayor no longer eligible for endorsement, as Michael Wilson reports. Outgoing Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo reportedly discouraged Democrats' precinct chairs to approve the resolution. The measure follows months of internal complaints from party organizers and was triggered in part by Whitmer's attendance at a fundraiser for U.S. Congressman Dan Crenshaw, a Republican who represents parts of the northeast Tarrant County. More than 100 precinct chairs had previously signed on the statements. Wow, we only have 15 in my county. Statements criticizing the mayor for working alongside state officials and not publicly confronting the Trump administration's federal immigration policies. After the party vote, Whitmer pushed back on those claims at emphasizing his long-standing ties to the Democrat Party. He served as a Democrat in the Texas House and another 4 decades in the Texas Senate. He rejected accusations that Texas operates as an arm of the federal immigration authorities. Not all Democrat officials and party leaders in Harris County were on board with the resolution. Opponents warned that the attack of Whitmer could deepen the internal fractures and weaken the party's outreach efforts, like what's happening up in the Metroplex with VZ, Aldred, Johnson, and that one lady that's running for a Tarrant County judge. So why doesn't he just become a Republican? They're not going to endorse him, so the chances are they're going to find someone to primary him. Oh, wait. I think that's a nonpartisan seat, I think. So there may not be a primary for him. And then on the back part, Texas Scorecard did a poll yesterday for their one-click poll, and they asked, who did you favor, Sid Miller or Nate Sheets for Agriculture Commissioner? And the split was 80% for Sid Miller and 19.7% for Nate for supporting Nate Sheets. And I got quoted in there. I have known Sid Miller since 2011. He has my family's total support and vote. And I put my name, James Pierce, in there. All right. I know I'm well over time. All right, well, just doing my best, right? So let's see. Is there anything I can go over the rest tomorrow? My group of papers. Look at this. Over the course of the last 3 podcasts, I've got that much. I still haven't gone over. I want to go back over the breaking news from yesterday about far left extremists. I'll just touch on that one and just do away with that one. But these Turtle Island Liberation Front, these are like a group of anarchists they wanted to bomb 5 facilities inside of Los Angeles, and then they had equipment to build pipe bombs. So in January and February of 2026, they wanted to blow up different ICE facilities along the West Coast to prove their point. And what I call them turtle terrorists, right? Because they're the Turtle Liberation Front. Turtle Island. Turtle Island is a term that North and South America, I believe, are just an enclave for Native Americans, and nobody else deserved to be here. And we slowly but surely encroached on all the land in North and South America, right? And I think that's what it was meant for. But they were trying to kill ICE agents. Matter of fact, they were quoted, "Take out ICE agents," with part of their stuff on their manifesto. And hold on, more news. Trump stands by Chief of Staff Susie Wild after bombshell interviews, admits he has alcoholic's personality. Okay, well, she's just describing him. He doesn't drink. So those are some bad dudes. The Democrats are bad dudes too, and girls, especially ones that are Democrats that pretend to be Democrats because they're socialists and communists, like the ones that are taking office in Washington State and New York City, right? We just got to keep it going, and try to get more Republicans elected. Stop the infighting. All right, so my socials. You can find me on X at James Pierce Jr. And then you can find me on Facebook at James A. Pierce Jr. and the JP8 Report on YouTube, JP8 Report 67, and the Truth at James A. Pierce, and email at jp8report@gmail.com. Okay, what distracted me? I got another breaking news. They're just released a more enhanced version of an image showing the shooter at Brown University. I don't know how detailed it is because I just saw it on my watch just a second ago. So give that a look on the news as soon as I'm done here, which would be about 30 seconds from now. Also, don't forget the president is supposed to be speaking tonight from the Oval Office, prime time. All right? So, what do I got left? Good news is my daughter's coming home tonight. And better news is I'm taking my wife out on a date on Saturday at 2:30. We're going to go watch the Nutcracker in Killeen at the Viva La Arts, which is going to be cool. All right, we get to see some people that we know perform. So anybody else? Anyone have any comments? No. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'll make an effort to do this. I'll write up as much as I can while I'm taking cat naps and stuff. So this is James Pierce with the JP8 report. I'll catch you on the flip side. I'm out.